Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Young from the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, and I'm joined today by our colleague, Mr. Martin Dolan, who is the Chief Commissioner for the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. I will, as usual, make an opening statement, as will Mr. Dolan, then we'll take questions. He will answer questions about aircraft accident investigation issues, and I will take questions on implications for the search effort. We would like to update you on some credible information AMSA has received from the ATSB, which will see the search area refocused today. The AMSA search for any sign of the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has been shifted to an area north, following advice from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. An international air crash investigation team in Malaysia provided updated advice to the ATSB, which has examined the information and determined an area 1,100 kilometres to the northeast of the existing search area is now the most credible lead as to where debris may be located. The new search area is approximately 319,000 square kilometres in area and about 1,850 kilometres west of Perth. The Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation, AGO, is retasking satellites to capture images of the new area. Weather conditions are better in the revised area, and 10 aircraft have been tasked for today's search. They are 2 Royal Australian Air Force P-3 Orions, a Japanese Coast Guard Gulfstream 5 jet, a Japanese P-3 Orion, a Republic of Korea P-3 Orion and C-130 Hercules aircraft, a Royal New Zealand Air Force P-3 Orion, a Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force Ilyushin 76, a United States Navy P-8 Poseidon aircraft, and 1 Australian civil jet acting as a communications relay. 4 of the 10 aircraft are overhead in the search area as we speak, with a further 6 planes to fly over the area today. A further Royal Australian Air Force P-3 Orion has been placed on standby at the Royal Australian Air Force Base in Pearce in Western Australia to investigate any reported sightings. 6 ships are relocating to the new search area, including HMAS Success and 5 Chinese ships, and Success is expected to arrive in the search area late tomorrow night. Additionally, the Chinese Maritime Safety Administration patrol ship Haishin 1 is in the search area. And I might add that we in AMSA know Haishin 1 quite well. She visited Sydney and Cairns last year in order to support a regional maritime safety conference, and we had the opportunity to do a search and rescue exercise with that ship. A United States towed Pinger locator and a Bluefin 21 autonomous underwater vehicle have arrived in Perth to assist with location and recovery of the black box. These will be fitted to the Australian Defence vessel Ocean Shield, which will arrive in Western Australia in the coming days. And the depth of the water in the search area is between 2,000 metres and 4,000 metres, Brendan. Mr. Dolan.
Thank you, Mr. Young. The ATSB, as Australia's Transport Safety Investigation Agency, is working with a range of other international expert organisations to analyse available data relating to the flight of MH370 and to determine the best area to search for the missing aircraft. The key pieces of information being analysed relate to early positional information from the aircraft and its later polling of a satellite through its aircraft systems. The new information is based on continuing analysis of radar data about the aircraft's movement between the South China Sea and the Strait of Malacca before radar contact was lost. This continuing analysis indicates the plane was travelling faster than was previously estimated, resulting in increased fuel usage and reducing the possible distance it travelled south into the Indian Ocean. The international investigative team supporting the search continues their analysis of the data. This could result in further refinement of the potential flight path of MH370. Radar and satellite polling data has been combined with information about the likely performance of the aircraft, speed and fuel consumption in particular, to arrive at the best assessment of the area in which the aircraft is likely to have entered the water. The information provided by the international investigative team is the most credible lead we currently have in the search for aircraft wreckage. However, this information needs to be continually adjusted for the length of time elapsed since the aircraft went missing and the likely drift of any wreckage floating on the ocean's surface. Finally, let me stress that under international convention, Malaysia has investigative responsibility for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. At this stage, the ATSB's main task is to assist in the search for the aircraft. Thank you. We will now take questions.
Do you think this is the crash point, splash point of the...
This is our best estimate of the area in which the aircraft is likely to have crashed into the ocean, yes.
So you have considered taking into account the drift of the currents?
In determining the search area, and Mr Young will comment further, we have taken account of drift information as well as the likely entry point of the aircraft into the water. Mr Young, you want to add?
That's correct. It's what we've been doing with all of the searches that we've conducted so far. This is day 21 of the search for the aircraft. So we have, using our own in-house systems as well as expert advice from the United States Coast Guard and commercial companies, drifted the area for 21 days of movement, taking into account the actual weather and the known currents for the area, yes.
So how many of the debris fields seen by satellites?
Sorry?
Sorry. Mr. Nolan, how much faster was the plane going according to the new analysis, and how do you know it continued to go at that faster speed after the radar lost contact?
This will remain a somewhat inexact science. I don't have in front of me the exact figures of the estimated speed, but this was an estimate of the estimated speed between the South China Sea and the Strait of Malacca, and then a range of assessments have been made about likely speed thereafter.
That suggests no human control of the plane at a certain point.
The assumption is that the aircraft was travelling at a constant or close to constant speed, and the reason we know that the aircraft continued to travel is we are bringing together, we and the international investigative team are bringing together two sets of data. The data from polling of the satellite that can give an arc within at specified times the aircraft was, and aircraft from which we rely particularly on Boeing, about the likely performance of the aircraft and matching those two sets of data to get points where the aircraft is likely to have gone through and ended up.
Mr. Young, how many of these debris fields spotted by planes or satellites could have drifted from that area? Does this rule out any of the potential debris fields?
We have, firstly, I would not use the term debris field associated with the satellite imagery. The imagery see lots of objects out of the ocean that may or may not actually be objects. What we do is to seek expert advice from the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation to advise us which of those are credible enough to search on. And you might recall we've done some of that lately and not found any objects. Does that answer your question?
Well, in that case, is the search areas, previous search areas to the southwest, are they active or are they now abandoned?
No, we have moved on from those search areas to the newest credible lead, based on the information from the accident investigation side. That is now our best place to go. And I would remind you that the analysis, in fact, is the same form as we started with. It has been refined and moved on. It's not a new theory. Yes, Brendan?
Mr. Young, you've got a range of aircraft and ships from several different countries involved in the search, and hopefully now they'll start being able to pick up some pieces of wreckage. Is there any agreement or understanding or maritime rule that says that all of this wreckage, any debris they find, must all wind up in the same country, so it can be properly investigated.
You wanna take that?
Or could it wind up scattered around the world?
Mr. Dolan, I think.
The answer to that question actually comes from the International Convention that relates to accident investigation, which says that it's the responsibility of, in this case, of the country of registry of the aircraft to initiate an investigation, and that country, through their investigator in charge, has to secure the wreckage and make it available for the investigation. Any wreckage that is obtained, we will hold on behalf of the Malaysian investigation team and await their instructions, and we're in continual discussions with the Malaysian about the progress of the search, and we will continue to discuss with them the handling of wreckage as and when it comes to hand.
So any ship that picks some up would have to hand it over to the Australians?
Yes, we are in the search operating on behalf of the Malaysian government.
Gentlemen, the previous...
Sorry, one for a minute.
I think the previous analysis indicated that the last ping was at 11 a.m. On that particular morning. If the plane was flying faster, burning fuel faster, and might have gone down earlier, is that previous analysis now contradicted, and that timeline now contradicted?
No, the previous analysis had a range of possible assumptions about aircraft speed, and those assumptions have now been refined. And what is tested is the aircraft speed and therefore likely position against the arcs that come out from distance from the satellite, the polling data. And so it's bringing those two together gives you the most credible path for the aircraft. It's an iterative process and is being refined over time, but what we have at the moment is the most credible location of the entry to the water and therefore the place to search.
The area that you've refined is still very remote, but it seems less remote than you were searching before. What does that mean for like your sortie rate and things like that, your ability to actually search the area? Does it mean you put more planes over the area in a short space of time?
We will certainly get better time on scene. We started nearly 3,000 kilometres from Perth, so we've taken quite a lot off that. And now we will get, you might recall we were talking in terms of 1 to 2 hours on scene. We're now doing much better than that. And the other benefit we get from moving further north is the search area has moved out of the roaring 40s, which creates very adverse weather frequently. I'm not sure that we'll get perfect weather out there, but it's likely to be better more often than we've seen in the past. And we will see what that does in terms of satellite imagery when the retasking of satellites starts to produce new material as well.
And if something did come down in that area, which way would the wreckage likely drift? Would it drift towards the mainland of Australia, or would it drift further out into the Indian Ocean?
Forgive me, I'll have to take that one on notice and get back to you. I think the drift is towards the east, but I need to look at it and get back.
You mentioned further continuing analysis of radar data. Is there actually new radar data? And can you be a bit specific about which data you're talking about, from which country, etc.?
The data is a matter in detail for the Malaysians. International provisions say that data is released by the country responsible for the investigation. There is a set of radar data from a number of sources, but most of this work is closer analysis of existing data rather than new radar data coming to light.
And our geospatial organisation, can you explain a little about their role and what satellites or whatever we have access to or a share in that we can actually retask? Are they things that pass over this area once a day or 10 times a day, and how good would their imagery be?
The Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation is effectively providing a service for government agencies. We take it as a consumer, and so they are looking through all of the satellite imagery that's available. I'm sure they take it from commercial sources and from government sources, and they provide us with the best leads that are available. I think if you want a detailed explanation, you probably need to talk to them.
So how much
Sorry.
of the debris spotted or potential debris spotted supports the current search area, given that expected that may have drifted from that area?
Referring to the new area, aircraft have only just arrived on scene today, so we'll need to wait to see what emerges. In the regards to the old areas, we have not seen any debris, and I would not wish to classify any of the satellite imagery as debris, nor would I want to classify any of the few visual sightings that we made as debris. That's just not justifiable from what we have seen.
So effectively, the search to date has been a waste of time, given it's been focusing on that southwest area?
The search to date has been what we had at the time. And I might add, that's actually nothing unusual for search and rescue operations. This actually happens to us all of the time, that new information will emerge out of sequence with the operation itself. And I remember occasions when, at least on one occasion, we searched for 6 days for a missing helicopter in the Victorian area, and it was only on the 7th day that we got a break from someone who'd been camping in the area, seen it, phoned the information in, we refocused some significant distance and found the aircraft. So this is the normal business of search and rescue operations, that new information comes to light, refined analyses take you to a different place. I don't count the original work a waste of time.
Can you tell us when the Ocean Shield...
Sorry,
will
can
be-
I move on, please?
About the new route, the press release said the new route is still subject to refinement. And did this one show on the map, the one after refinement or before that? Are you still working on that?
No.
Or based on this route?
The new area is based on the refined data. That's the best information we have on careful analysis at this point. I'm just warning that it's possible that further analysis may change that again. We, at this stage, don't expect significantly, but there are no guarantees in that area. This is the best available information and analysis.
Could you please explain to us just in a little more detail about the data you've refined? Like, we've had various things, like this, the succession of pings that came out once an hour or whatever, and various radar select the idea that the aircraft appeared on radar on a number of occasions. What are you actually refining here?
We're refining the relationship between assessments about the aircraft performance. So not just speed and fuel, but the overall performance of a 777 in a range of scenarios. We're looking at the data from the so-called pinging of the satellite, the polling of the satellites, and that gives a distance from a satellite of the aircraft to within a reasonable approximation, and bringing those two assessments, the various projections of aircraft performance against the information about distance from satellites at given times of the aircraft, which is an arc. And so it's trying to find the right coincidence of those and derive the best endpoint, and then look at, beyond that, where the search is best therefore located.
When an aircraft like this runs out of fuel, do all the engines stop at once, or does it just go straight down? Does it fly?
There are a range of scenarios that had to be fed in, and that's one of the reasons why the search area remains a very large one. And this is something that we probably should underline. I'm sure Mr. Young would have a comment on this as well. This is still an attempt to search a very large area, and for surface debris, which will give us an indication of where the main aircraft wreckage is likely to be. This has a long way to go yet.
In the early days of this episode, gentlemen, there were indications that the plane had changed course several times, and this was one of the reasons that foul play was suggested. Can you just explain the current thinking on that? Is it still the belief that it changed course several times?
The radar data that I was talking about was related to those initial stages where there was some changing of course of the aircraft. The best assessment from then on in is that the aircraft headed south consistently into the Indian Ocean, and what we've now been doing is working out the most likely flight path based on all the information available to the international team.
Last question. To narrow down the search area, what lead do you think is most incredible aside from the degree, aside from finding the degrees? Actually, this question is for ATSB. Are you currently looking at other Are you currently looking at other leads from the Malaysian investigation on radar or on satellite data?
There's a question about search, and so Mr. Young, I think, should answer it first.
Can I start by saying the two primary methods that we've had so far are these analyses, which are about the movements of the aircraft, and that, in fact, is the best information we can have. Anything we can have about the movements of the aircraft create the greatest degree of confidence. We've also had satellite imagery. Satellite imagery has been followed up. It's actually not produced any sightings for us, but that may change in the future. We also use sophisticated oceanographic modelling to determine where objects will move. And in terms of keeping the search area confined, knowing what happens to the water is very important. Recall, please, that this is 21 days after the event was expected to happen. Over that 21 days, there'll be a significant amount of random dispersion of objects, and so the search area steadily gets bigger with time. We've been fortunate with the previous search areas that the water movement was small, it was low, not much movement at all, and therefore the search area didn't rapidly get bigger. And in direct answer to your question, we will put data marker buoys that report back their movement by satellite to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority into that search area, so that we know with accuracy where the water is moving, and that provides us the best way to keep the search area confined, rather than simply accept that it's going anywhere and the search area gets bigger. I'm sorry, that's a complicated issue.
Could I add to that? All the information that is currently available to the investigation that is relevant to the likely movements of the aircraft has been made, and the analysis of that has been made available to the search. We will continue to do that. We are not at this stage, but we will continue to consult with our international colleagues, seeing other lines of inquiry or information that are likely to add much information to what's currently on the table.
Thank you, everyone.
Could the
We're
plan
going
be
to
reviewed?
Let's go.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.